Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace dropping in on you. I'm not one, you know me, to sit around and wait for people to get in. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. I don't like the first 10 minutes of my video to be uh, just empty waiting on people to arrive. Those who don't get in on the beginning can always watch it on the playback. I like to get in and immediately get to addressing things that are on my mind. Um, as you guys know, we are definitely in a hey, what's going on? We're definitely in the midst of a fundraiser. We've been for a while. Efforts are intense, but results are not so great. But we keep pushing. We keep doing what we do. So I've entered the information for those who want to support the work we're doing. They can. We're going to talk today, and I want to talk about it. Something that popped up, in the wake of the death of Kobe Bryant and the celebration and everything going on. We all know that there's been a lot of negativity and some things said. And I came across this article that caught my attention, and it put me in a state of lucidity as to how we think and operate when it comes to white people, the white society, the white system, and something that we need to work on. I think we focus way too much on what they're doing, how they're behaving, how they're acting, how they're treating us. And we still seem to be seeking their approbation, their approval, their acceptance. And we're not looking at the beauty within ourselves. We're not looking at who we are, what we're capable of, and so much more. Um, the title of the article was Dear White Women. And basically, the author, Martin Morrow, uh, he is basically explaining to white women that they need to see our humanity. They need to recognize our humanity, that it's easy for them to talk about us and ascribe to us the most atrocious things, but they refuse to receive or acknowledge our humanity. And because they can't acknowledge our humanity, it gives them the freedom to ascribe to us the most atrocious of behaviors and state of beings and everything, that if they can just see us as animals, then they don't have to acknowledge that we have feelings. If they can see us as animals, they don't have to acknowledge the atrocious things that they've done to us, that in the ways that they've wronged us. And it goes on and on and on. I want to address that first by saying I have no desire to plead with anybody to acknowledge my humanity or to pay homage to my humanity. What I am going to do instead is demand that my humanity be respected. And when my humanity is violated, I will make my presence felt. When the humanity of my wife and my family is violated, I will make my presence felt. I have no desire to convince white women, white men, or any other non Black to acknowledge and accept my humanity. My humanity is a given. I don't have to prove it. I don't have to convince people of it. It simply is. And I don't have to beg, and I will not beg. I think that one of the things that we did, I think a great deal of the civil rights movement was based on acceptance. We had positioning by way of socioeconomic power because we had ownership. We owned our own theaters. We owned our own cab companies, our bus companies. We owned our own cleaners. We owned the businesses that we abandoned to patronize theirs solely because we needed to be accepted. We have to stop approaching our relationship with white people based off of them accepting us. It needs to be a relationship of respect, not acceptance. They need to respect our power. And the only way they're going to do that is if we build and establish it, and that we demand by way of engagement that it be respected. You don't have to like me. I don't want you to like me, but you will respect me or you will feel me. It's that simple. It's the way we handle one another. If we feel we're disrespected among ourselves, it's a problem, and everybody's about to get the business. That is what we need to do. And you don't demand respect by begging. Nobody will respect you because you're begging them to. People will respect you because you have established a presence and you have established a pattern. Your presence says you are powerful enough to defend yourself. Your pattern says you have no problem defending yourself if violated. It's that simple. That's how you have respect, is that I'm going to handle people with respect until they show me otherwise. And then I'm going to demand that the same be done for me. Now, this article comes out of uh, specific white people attacking Kobe Bryant based off the 2003 rape accusation, where the case was ultimately dropped, and there's a bunch of things going on. And I'm not here to defend any rapist. Anybody that knows me knows that my wife is a rape survivor, a childhood molestation survivor. So I take that seriously. But I also understand that many a black man has been lynched, killed in prison for being falsely accused. And we're still freeing men who have been locked up for decades behind lies. We can go back and we can see why, for the white woman who thinks that we're giving Kobe Bryant a pass, for the white woman who thinks that we're not taking the allegations serious and we're giving him a pass, we must then sit up and say that you are very forgetful, because see, we have a pattern and a history of false allegations by white women. It's nothing for a white woman to weaponize her whiteness and put a black man in a very precarious situation. See, Emmett Till died 14 years of age behind a white woman's lie, by her own admission. We have an entire town of Tulsa destroyed behind a white woman's lie. We have an entire town of Rosewood destroyed behind a white woman's lie. You can go on and on of how many people's been lynched. And look at how many black men are being released behind white women's lies. And the weaponization of their whiteness is what white women have always had. And if you don't do your research and your history, you won't understand. See, we always talk about the white master, and the image that is immediately solicited when you think of white masters of plantations and slave owners. You think of the white male, but some of the most feared and dangerous people on those plantations was the white mistress. Her hatred for the black woman, because she knew her white husband had an interest and a sickness almost for desiring this black woman, and the hatred and the need to dominate the black man. That has been happening from day one. So when we sit up and we see somebody cry foul, and let's not forget that with this case, when they did the rape kit, there were multiple male DNA. So it wasn't just Kobe she had been with, it was several other guys. And I'm not one saying that a woman doesn't have a choice to be whoever she wants to be in, but then you have a problem of even drawing conclusions about who did what when you got multiple specimens, male male DNA. This was found. She was found not to be a very credible witness, and I say that because there was a white senator who said that Kobe was credibly accused. Now, last I checked, credibly accusing someone doesn't make them guilty. This is a place where we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. Not that we have to prove our innocence, but that we are considered and assumed innocent until we are proven to be guilty. That never happened. That never happened. And so this isn't so much about Kobe to me. This is about white women looking for any reason to tarnish the black male image. We can't have a black male being praised. We can't have a black male being praised and being viewed as pristine. We've got to dig up some things on it. We got to tarnish the image. We've got to mar it some. We can't have black men being viewed in this light. That's always been the case. Tell me a black man that has lived long and been loved, or lived shortly and been loved, that at some point they weren't trying to tarnish either before death and definitely after death. And then eventually you come around, and after they realize they can't kill the legacy, they jump on the bandwagon. Muhammad Ali was hated by white people. Martin Luther King hated by white people. Malcolm hated by white people. You know, they got eventually got on the Martin Luther King bandwagon. If you think I'm lying, why did it take so long to get something like a national holiday? Because white people were still hating him and they didn't want it. It was time after time when you realize, okay, if we want to appear to have been on the right side of history, we're going to have to change our position on this because it's obviously history is going to view this man in a positive light. And that doesn't mean he didn't have faults. See, that's the part of our humanity. We're allowed to have faults. We're allowed to make mistakes because there's nobody who is human who hasn't. But we don't get the benefit of the doubt. We don't get to say, okay, they didn't start this way, they didn't start that way, but they did come around and they did become. See, life is about becoming anyway. Life isn't about what you're born into. It's not about what you're born with. It's about what you do with it, how you handle your life, the decisions you make, what kind of imprint you leave. My goal has always been to leave a legacy that is so powerful that it speaks of me long after I'm gone. If I can leave a legacy, then my life meant something. If all I can do is accumulate things and accomplish goals that don't have anything to do with touching lives and changing lives, my life will have been empty. Can I leave a legacy that says somebody's life is better because I was there, or that I touched it, or that I spoke into it, or that they modeled something I was doing and that changed their lives, or they worked with me for a short period of time and that time allowed them to see life differently? Am I leaving that? And when you see us, we've got men doing it, but they rarely are portraying us. The time you see black men portrayed, sex crazed, violent, criminal minded, disrespectful, and you start to believe that that's what black men are. They love to show us when we've gotten a little success and we decide to go off and choose a white woman over a black woman, and especially if we have something negative to say about the black woman. And so then it gives the illusion that the successful black man prefers a white woman, when in truth that's not the case. That's the case with some. That's the case with some who aren't sure who they are. See, when you know who you are as a black man, you automatically see something extraordinary and wonderful in the black woman. See, there's something about me that simply says that there's nobody that can connect with me the way a black woman can. So I'm never ever looking outside of that. But they're not going to show me. They're not going to highlight me. They're going to highlight the idiot that talks about black women being I forgot the term this clown used, but bulldogs or pit bulls or whatever he said, a bulldog. I think he said bulldog, because that's what they want to portray, black men being disrespectful to black women. And a lot of us have bought into the idea that that's how black men are, when the truth is 88% of black men who are married to black women. But they're not going to put that out there. Why? Because the narrative doesn't work in the favor of what they're trying to present. 88% of married black men are married to black women. Are there some issues? Absolutely, there are some issues. That's because we don't know who we are. That's why we work hard with Black Men Lead to create a socialized environment where young black males discover who they are early in life. So they see the proud in the black. I was just on the phone with a client, and the client is a business client of mine, but they're black. And we happened to get off into the discussion of our blackness and the pride. And she was telling me about how she used to be ashamed of her dark skin, because even among blacks, that she wasn't revered the same way that light complected sisters were. And we have that in the South big time. Colorism is a huge part of growing up, where light complected blacks are favored over darker complected blacks, and it's a problem. And I said, that's why you have to see the beauty in yourself. And she said one of the most liberating things she did was visit Jamaica, where it was the flip, where the darker you are, the more the people who are normally there are going to receive you. But the thing is, you have to find that in yourself. See, there's a beauty in the dark skin, and I don't want to create differences between dark and light. But what I want to do is say there's a beauty in the darkness. Now, there's a story behind the lightness that brings something special to that. But there's a beauty in the darkness that speaks to something historically powerful. And we got to learn to love ourselves. We got to learn to love ourselves in every form we're in, because it tells a story. See, we didn't just get to being light. There's a story behind that lightness, and there's a beauty behind the darkness. We've got to learn to love one another in all of that. And that is the thing that we are failing to do. Look here, I have no desire to convince a white woman to feel any kind of way about me. See, that's the thing, and no disrespect to Martin Morrow. I understand where he's coming from. He's trying to get them to see our humanity and stop judging us. And he's speaking specifically based on what was happening to Kobe Bryant. I'm speaking on a much broader sense. I'm speaking on the fact that I don't need a white woman to accept my humanity to feel love, because I got love from the black woman, from the woman who raised me, to the woman who married me, to the younger daughters to the daughters I have who love me as their protector, their father, and their provider. I don't need the approval of a white woman, because I have the love of a black woman. And see, that's what we have to understand. Our job isn't to convince them of our humanity. Our job is to build together, to love together, to come together as a family, to come together as a community, and then establish a position to where we have the power to make our presence felt. We have to stop financing our own demise by pouring money into non-essential things in their economy. Yeah, there's just certain things we don't own yet. And if we need it, we're going to have to get it from them. But if it isn't something we absolutely need, we got to learn how to create it in our own environment and spend our money there. We've got to learn how to circulate that and create in that environment something worth having. We are responsible for that. We can't convince someone who benefits from our suffering to ease the suffering. This isn't the game we're playing. See, they gave you a standard of morality that they were never willing to live by. They told you what was expected of you, that you have to forgive, but they don't forgive you. If you think that they are forgiving you in the way that they're demanding forgiveness of you, ask Michael Vick, a man who was in prison for fighting dogs. I don't condone that. I'm actually a dog lover, and I don't condone it. But a man who was in prison for 2 years for fighting dogs, fined crazy amounts of money, came out, gave over $1 million to the cause of stopping dog fighting, have since led an exemplary life, came back to the pros, carried himself as a professional until he retired, and they still hate him. They're still fighting. They don't want him to have anything. He was named as a captain, an honorary captain to the Pro Bowl, one of the Pro Bowl teams, and they fought it tooth and nail to get him removed. But luckily, we responded on his behalf, and the NFL kept him in place. Which, that's a whole nother story. We get all off into that some other time. What am I saying? What I'm saying is we've got to find a reason to love ourselves. We've got to find a reason to feel good about who we are. We've got to stop thinking that what they feel about us is what validates us. We've got to stop thinking that they're all of a sudden going to want to share their stuff with us. And I was talking to a white associate of mine that I've known for a long time. And we were just talking, and I said, hey, we've always been honest with each other. So tell me, where is the vitriol coming from now? This is 1990, whatever it was. This is the 1990s. Where's the vitriol coming from now? And he said, white people are tired of black people asking us to share our stuff with them. And I said, well, you do realize that stuff came because of the free labor of black people. So what they're asking is for you to pay them what you owe. But at the same time, I understand the idea. Instead of begging them to have something they have, start building your own. Here's what I can tell you, that if you build something, and I know this for a fact because I've done it, if you build something and it's valuable, and it's something that's valuable to them, they'll spend their money with you. And every time they spend their money with you, you got to be smart enough to do to them what they've done to us. And that is, don't put that money that they spend with you back into their economy. Put it back into the black economy. Put it back into the building of wealth for your family. You have a responsibility to build generational wealth. And no matter how little you have, you still have that responsibility. There's no exemption from wealth building because of poverty. That's a false narrative, a false idea, a false concept. You have a responsibility. I know of personally people who have made $12 an hour their entire lives and retired with a net worth of over $1 million. I know a person, now that person is black. I know a person, white, but still money is money, that literally never made more than $14,000 a year. His name is Theodore Johnson. Look him up. Uh, Never made more than $14,000 a year. Retired uh, after working for 30 years for no more than $14,000 a year with a net worth of $70 million. He continued to invest, continued to do what he had been doing. And I think at the age of 90, he gave away half of his wealth to charity. This is a white man who met a wealthy person and talked to him about wanting to be wealthy. And the guy told him what he had to do. He said, I can't afford to take 20% of my money and invest in something. All I make is, he says, because all you make is, you have no choice but to invest. The more impoverished you are, the more you should be compelled to invest in the future for yourself and for your loved ones, your offsprings, and your progeny. That is your responsibility. And so what he told him, he said that if the government came right now and they said they were increasing your taxes by 20%, you would cry, scream, shout, throw tantrums, but at the end of the day, you would pay it. Tax yourself the 20. Invest it in something that's growing through compound interest. We deal with compounding predominantly as a race in the reverse. We compound our debt. We got compounded debt on our vehicles, compounded debt on our homes, and wherever there's debt, there cannot be wealth. Debt is the biggest enemy of wealth building. You have to find a way to come out. But if you compound growth, that means that what you're investing in is growing on the interest and what you're investing, but it's also compounding annually. And so there's things like the S&P, there's the Vanguard. Both of those are index markets. So you're talking about passively managed mutual funds. Now, that's completely different from actively and progressively managed mutual funds, which don't win but 4% of the time. And it's never the same funds. It's real hard to play that market, while many will try to convince you to get into it because it's big commission for uh, financial professionals. Indexing has been consistent for decades, 8.2 to 10% compound interest annually. Just take a certain amount, that if you took 20%, and they have these calculators online. This is just for me to you sharing you something. They have these calculators online. Go on and find a compound interest calculator online and say, okay, I can afford, or I can't, I'm going to just take 20% of your income, 20% of your net income. Take 20% and say, this is what I'm going to put in monthly. And then calculate it at 8.2% compounded annually and find out what you will have in 20 years. It will blow your mind. And it's ways out there to do that. And that's just one way. But we have to start building. We have to do that. Why? Because it is the power that is established economically that will allow you to make your presence felt in a world that doesn't respect you. Why doesn't it respect you? Because it can take all of your money without giving you anything. You got politicians that have literally sold you on voting for them because of their soft talk rhetoric, but they produce nothing for you for decades. And you're not going to get anything because you never demanded anything. You have to take your vote as well as your dollar and say, you can't have it unless you show me something truly valuable for it. I'm going to stop spending based on emotion. I'm going to stop spending based on promises. I'm going to stop spending because I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses. I am going to put my money where my money works for me, either in politics, in economics, or in social push. I'm going to invest in me, my family, and my community. And when you take on that mindset and when you teach that to your children as a part of your natural inherent values, interests, and principles, you create a mindset that has value attached to it inherently. You don't have to start talking to kids and trying to convince them they're beautiful, because it's a part of the entire scope and makeup of who they are coming up in the home. You don't have to convince them they're intelligent. You don't have to convince them that they can compete out there with non-blacks because they know who they are. You have to start establishing you have to start establishing an idea, an identity. We suffer from identity crisis where we have the enemy defining us. We have the enemy literally telling us who we are, what we can have, what we can't have, what we're capable of. And if we don't know our history, if we don't know who we are, we buy the lie, we buy the narrative. See, if we don't know any better, we don't know that the traffic light was created by a black man, that the cell phone was created by a black man, that so many other things that we have now as technology that makes our lives easier, that makes their lives easier, was created by black minds and creative minds, that we have a natural spiritual capacity by way of our pineal gland to connect with the universe and the spiritual elements of the world, to pull in ideas that are out there and do great things with them at a higher level than they can. Our spiritual capacity, which everything in the universe is melanin. The pineal gland not only creates melanin, it's also the antenna that communicates with the universe, that communicates with God. And because ours is larger, and why do you think they keep so much fluoride out there? Because fluoride is one of the most powerful forces or chemicals when it comes to calcifying the pineal gland, rendering it ineffective. You need to detox that pineal gland. You need to start realizing just how in touch with God you are. See, they're still trying to figure out how over 5,000 years ago we were able to build pyramids with no type of technology even close to what exists today. They get so frustrated with thinking about that they done sit up and said aliens helped us. Why? Because it's better to think aliens helped us than that they were that damn smart and that in tune with spirituality that they pulled these types of capacities out of the universe and created them. So when people talk to me about the economics of it, there's the science of economics, there's the military science, there's the political science, there's the understanding of how things happen from that structure. But what gives us an edge, and that's why I tell people no matter how far back we are, and we are far back when it comes to socioeconomic positioning and power, but why we still have a chance, and that's where Dr. Anderson and I disagreed, and I had a conversation with him and his wife years ago. Probably when I first put up the code of conduct and the blueprint for Black empowerment on my site, 2014, 2015, I was able to communicate with Dr. Anderson because I was sharing some of his principles from Powernomics and Black labor, white wealth. And he was saying, at roughly around 2013, we became a permanent underclass. And I disagree. I agree that if you look at it solely from the rules that they created, we're locked out. But see, that's why you can't play by their rules. Their rules are meant for them. You got to think outside of the box. We're too creative. We're too spiritually connected to ever be out of the game. We're too spiritually connected to ever be boxed in. As long as we think inside of the box, we will remain inside the box. But the beauty about lateral thinking is it allows you to move outside of the box and see yourself outside of the scope of what somebody else constructed for you. And there are no limits to that. There are absolutely no limits. That's how you see people who come out of unbelievably dark situations and do extraordinary things. They got outside of the box. They had to. They had to change their thinking on a level and really truly move outside of that box. So we're never truly ever locked out. If we're breathing, we're still in the fight. And that's the mindset that we have to teach our. If you're breathing, you're still in the fight. There are things that I face on a regular basis as I try to build for my family, as I try to build for the community, as I try to balance running a company and running an organization that doesn't have revenue generated and does not receive support from the community. How I balance that and how I do all of that, I have to get outside of the box. I have to believe in myself. Sometimes I'm so beat up and tattered with trying to do that, that the only thing I have left is that I'm still breathing. And then I look in the mirror, and those who follow me know this because I talk about it a lot. I look in the mirror and I don't even know how, but I tell myself I'm built for this. I got this. I'm coming out. What am I saying? I'm saying that I've trained myself and I've been blessed enough to be around people who instill this in me, that if you're still breathing, you're still in the fight. That you have not lost until it's over. You have not lost until you stop breathing. I mean, breathing. Yes, we are in a very precarious situation. If we don't get some things done, this is going to get a lot more uh, difficult. It's going to be a lot uglier than we see now if we don't start making some changes, if we don't start seeing ourselves as builders and not buyers. We've got to change the mentality, and it's got to be done on a level. I was just telling my client, the one I told you about a moment ago, we were just talking, and I said, we've got to have enough people who are willing to invest in our future, invest in our youth. We need men who are willing to invest in plant seeds that they may not live long enough to see come to fruition. What do you mean by that, Doc? Well, here's what I mean. I mean that we live in a world where the black man specifically doesn't experience power in any way close to the level that the white man does. So he feels powerless. He feels emasculated. He's searching for a place to make his presence felt. And so when he does something, he wants something that can happen quickly so he can beat his chest and he can get pats on the back and somebody can tell him great job and he can say, man, that's a leader. And so what you do is you start looking for quick fixes. You're operating from a microwave mindset. You want something immediate. You need immediate gratification. The problem is something powerful that we need, the way we need it, a structure so potent that it's going to stand the test of time, can't be erected overnight. So you study trying to go for quick fixes that don't work, and you get a little immediate gratification, but you don't produce anything that the next generation can take and work with. What we need are men who are willing to plant seeds in our babies, that by the time those seeds grow to fruition and those soldiers come out of those babies, those warriors come out of those babies, those great minds and inventors and creators come out of those babies, those economic superstars come out of those babies, those business superstars come out of those babies. I may not be around to see it, but I've got to be willing to plant the seed. See, my legacy has to be enough for me. I can't be searching for likes and shares and all that stuff. I told you when I started this, when we had the other channel and we were up and we were growing and we was big, I told you then it wasn't about likes for me. It wasn't about any of that. It was about me laying a foundation that people could take something from it and build what they're trying to build. It's about giving my people the information and the knowledge and the encouragement and the inspiration they need to step up and walk out and do something. It's about planting seeds in babies that will probably not prosper to the fullest extent of who they are while I'm still on this planet. And I've got to be okay with that. I've got to be okay to trust that my legacy will speak for me and of me long after I'm gone. That's what we're going to need. We can't quick fix what we've been in for 400 years. It's going to take some people saying, I won't get to see it, but I'm going to help build it. We have so much going on, so many things pointed at us. And so I will not apologize for giving a black man the benefit of a doubt when a white woman cries rape, because it's happened so many times and it's cost so many lives only to find out it wasn't true. We've got documented times. We're watching over and over and over as men who have spent 25, 35, 40 years in prison, finding out that they didn't commit it, but somebody lied and said they did it, and their word was good enough. The science is starting to catch up, and the lie is being destroyed by the science. But what I will not do, and all respect to my brother Martin, I see where you're coming from, and I love you for taking your stand in your place, but I will not beg a white woman to acknowledge my humanity. I have a beautiful black woman who does that for me, and that's enough. I will not ask a white woman to sit up and give me a space and acknowledge who I am. I don't need you to tell me how great I am. I don't need you to acknowledge my intellectual prowess. I don't need you to acknowledge my sense of leadership and commitment to my people. I am good knowing who I am. Thank God for Ernest Lee Wallace and C.D. Wallace, who taught me who I was as a young runt coming up, and it stuck. Thank God for Miss Geraldine Francois, my fourth, fifth, and sixth grade teacher, who taught me I was exceptional. Thank God for John Brewer, my seventh grade history teacher, who taught me, young man, you will never settle. Thank God for Miss Dewberry, my 11th grade English teacher, who told me the word can't would never apply to me. I thank them because they set the groundwork for a young black man to come out and do some exceptional, extraordinary things. I think if they were alive, some of them still are, but those who are gone, if they were alive, they would be impressed with The fact that I published 21 books, that I founded multiple companies, that I've traveled, that I've created situations, that I'm touching lives, that I'm passing on what they taught to me to another generation. That's what they asked of me when they did it. And I am no different than any other Black person on this planet. There's nothing special about me except I believe in me. That's what I teach my people. Don't look at me and think I'm exceptional because of what I've done. I've done what I've done because of how I think. And you can think the same way. We've got to believe in ourselves, and that's got to translate into how we handle our children. We got to instill in them how beautiful they are, how smart they are, how loving they are. We've got to start sitting up and we got to stop begging schools to accept our kids and our culture. We've got a kid now in Texas that's been suspended from school because of dreadlocks, and he refuses to cut them. So now he's had to withdraw. And you've seen the outpour of love coming from not just Blacks, but a lot of other people who can see and understand the struggle and see what's really happening here. But that's what happens when you're trying to integrate into what they created to benefit them and expect them to acknowledge the things that empower and elevate you. See, when you're able to walk in with your own culture, when you're able to walk in with your own culture, wear your hair the way you want to wear it, with your own culture, practice your spirituality the way you want to practice it, you start to get identified in the power that's within and the confidence of being yourself and not trying to assimilate into something someone else says you have to be. There's some power in that. And they don't want that to happen. They don't want you assimilate. That's why they took away our spiritual beliefs. That's why they took away our names. That's why they wouldn't let us talk about our history. Some of the most precarious designations during the early forms of slavery was the griot. Why? The storyteller. The one that would remind the people of where they came from. So you weren't always a slave. You were an aristocrat in your village. You were a village chief. You were a village head. You were a princess. You were a king. You had a sense of self. And even if you were a farmer, you owned your own. There was no position in your history. No matter what if you were a farmer, that was honor in farming. You owned it. You said it. You put in the work. You reaped the rewards. You weren't always a slave. See, the griot had to go. Why? Because they were trying to convince the slave that they deserved slavery, that they didn't measure up. I don't need white women or white men to acknowledge who I am, acknowledge my humanity, acknowledge my intellectual giftedness, acknowledge that I'm human and I have love and I'm capable of making mistakes, but I'm capable of recovering and rehabilitating and doing things. Even in my mistakes, I still have purpose and potential. See, I gain nothing by trying to convince them, because then the more I try to convince them, the more the weight of who I am rests on their acceptance and their approval. Let them be who they are. Let them show who they are. What we have to do is, despite that, rise. Despite that, level up. Despite that, we have a responsibility to understand who we are and where we come from. If all we have is slavery and everything that has followed in this country, it can get dark real quick, because we've had more horror than we have wealth, more horror than we've had health. We have to understand who we are at the core, and we don't need them to validate it. We must validate it amongst ourselves. On that note, look, I'm gonna get out here. Like I said, I'm gonna put it up here one more time. If you want to support the work we're doing, the link is there. Or you can give through Cash App, however you want to do it. But we're gonna keep pushing. We're going to keep doing the research. We're going to keep doing the writing. We're going to keep doing the work in the community. Black Men Lead, Restoring Ghettos, Forgotten Daughters. I was talking to Mary and my wife earlier this week, and she's actually thinking about changing Restoring Ghettos, Forgotten Daughters to Restoring Get the Ghettos Forgotten, because she wants to be able to reach. And we're still talking about that. I don't want to lose sight of the unique struggles that our ladies, our babies, our females go through. So we're still talking about that, but I understand what she wants to do. She wants to make sure everybody knows that her organization is going to do whatever it can to reach out and touch them, for every Black person out there. And so what I'm going to do is do everything I can to make sure that that message is sent out. But we're putting in the work. And like I said, having a wife who at 5 years old was molested and was raped twice in her teens, 14 and 16, and having to overcome all of that went on with all the devastation and trauma that she grew up in, and to watch who she's become, a loving, giving person that is like, to me, I have to protect her. I have to protect her. And if you ever listen to her talk to me, she'll tell you he's extremely protective. Why? Because she's so open to helping people. She's way worse than me. I do it, but I do it from a place where you're not going to get me. I'll give and give because there's so many people who need it. But she's that person that she just wants to give. She wants to give. And a lot of times it takes so much from her. And so I have to cover and I have to protect her, which is my responsibility. But we're going to put in that work. We're going to do what we have to do. But what I just want to do is I want to address that. Again, this is no disrespect to the brother who wrote it. I understand where you're coming from. I've shared it on my site, and I'm going to put this video up. I'm going to put a link in the video after I get it up and everything. I'm going to put a link to the page where you can actually go read it. It's a well-written piece, and it makes some very valid points. I'm just at a place where I'm not begging them to see me for who I am. I'm going to be who I am, and I'm going to focus on being what I need to be with my people. Those who are not my people, who want to roll with me and be friends or whatever, they can prove their loyalty to me, and I'll accept it. I have no problem with accepting allies outside of my people when they have proven themselves. I don't trust anybody outside. And I'm getting to where I can't trust people inside. Some of my people be wearing me out, but it is what it is. But we have to do what we are responsible for doing for ourselves. That's something that is never going to change. We're never going to get someone else to do for us what we are supposed to be doing for ourselves. And on that note, oh, Erlene, I'm glad I looked over there. Getting that woman on here, man, for a person that does what she does, I'm gonna try to get her on here. She actually was out like a week ago. Saturday, yeah, last Saturday she was out and she came home all down, and that's when she was talking about changing the name from Ghettos Forgotten Daughters to Forgotten, because she was just seeing what the system is doing to our kids. She works a lot with children who have been charged with crimes or assigned something and are literally being detained in juvenile detention. She does a lot of work with them during their detention and after their detention. She also works with a couple of school districts. But she came home. She's so upset. And like I always tell her, I say, why don't you come get on with me? She's one of those people that she has to do everything perfectly. So the idea of getting on and stumbling over a word or not knowing what's going to come up, and I'm the opposite. I don't script anything. I know what I want to talk about, and I get on and I talk from a place of knowledge and experience. Um, uh, that is the difference between us. And I try to tell you don't have to be perfect. You just get on and be you, and the people will love you for your authenticity. So it's just about getting on. I got a brother who has a podcast that's been trying to get us on and talk about the family for God knows how long. And eventually we're going to get it, but I'm definitely going to let her know. And Erlene, you're friends on her page. Why don't you shoot her a shot and let her know she's needed on here? Because she thinks I say a lot of stuff just because I'm her husband. Uh, you know, uh, she thinks I tell her, how great she is because I'm her husband. You have to say that you're my husband. I'm like, no, you're my wife because you're that person. And so, yeah, go hit her up on her page and let her know she's definitely needed on this, because when we get to going, we really bounce off each other. We really have a great time. So, when I tell her, she thinks I'm just hyping her up, so definitely go on her page, her Facebook page, and hit her up and tell her, that we meet her on here, so she could talk about some of the things she's doing and everything like that. So yeah, do that. But on that note, I'm gonna get out of here. Like I said, for those who want to support us. We definitely need it. And on that note, I'm gonna get off, and hopefully I'll be back a little later. Got a lot of work. Um, got a lot of work to do today. But I just need to talk on that. Thank you guys for stopping by and spending some time with me. We've got a long way to go to get the site back to where the original one was, but we're not going to quit and give up. We're going to keep pushing, and eventually we'll get back. Man, over 3 million views, 16,000 subscribers, and all that just snatched away. And they don't have an explanation. They won't even respond to the appeal. But hey. I mean, I had 10 years. It took a long time to get that channel jumping. When it started jumping, it took off. But 10 years, 1,600 videos, not one strike. And then all of a sudden, bam. It's crazy. Uh, it's just crazy. On that note, I'm going to jump off of here and get some work done, but I had to stop in and share with you. Thank you guys for coming in and showing love and sharing with me. I see a couple of people got deleted. I don't know what happened with some of those, but appreciate it. Hey, seemed like pretty much everybody was well behaved. Elder S3, I hear you. I hear you. I definitely hear you. I can't argue with you. You guys have a great day, and we'll talk soon. I'm out. Peace.